Hey, it's Eli from Elfbait, and today I'm going to take a look at how to keep things straight in your campaign, or at least how I do it. So, and actually, this is kind of a new process for me too, but it seems to be working out pretty well. So, if you're whether you're doing a structured campaign or kind of a as you go sort of a campaign, you may find that there are going to be a lot of events, a lot of adventures and stuff that are going on that may seemingly seem unrelated, but you can actually tie them together in a way that allows you to form a plot either in chunks that are pre-planned as part of a plot or as a greater storyline, but also allow you to plug things in as you play along. So what I do, just kind of jump in there, is what I started doing is I would create sort of a base sheet for my campaign that was about what was going on in the campaign world. So with Aerolith, I had about 5 or 6 major things that were going on, some plot lines and stuff that were going on kind of behind the scenes, sort of mega plot sort of deals. And what I did is I went ahead and assigned each one of them a letter code. And so what this lets me do then is as I create new content for the campaign, as new adventures happen or rumors are heard, I can go ahead and assign these things a letter code that kind of helps them fit. It helps me figure out where they fit in the greater scheme of things. Now, some things may have multiple letter codes too, and this is a way to kind of interweave your plots. But let's say you have plot number A, or letter A, is some sort of a political plot, and B is a supernatural plot, and so you have an event that occurs in your game. You may then decide that you want to go ahead and make that particular event be both an A and a B, which means that your supernatural plot and your political plot are crossing paths. So this may be a situation, let's say you have a kingdom that's got some sort of a power struggle going on, or a guild war, or an argument between wizards factions or something to that effect. And you have also maybe the rise of some sort of powerful supernatural entity, the revelation of some sort of lost artifact, or even sort of a semi-natural regular occurrence in the campaign world, which is some sort of a magical concordance or something like that. You can then maybe have a situation where, while your political plot is moving along on its own and for its own reasons, this new supernatural thing may tie in. Perhaps your wizard's conclave is trying to capitalize on this concordance as part of their political aspect, political conflict. Maybe your guild war is going to be greatly influenced by the rise of some sort of supernatural power. The kingdom, maybe this artifact that's been revealed is now is key to one of the factions in your power struggle in your kingdom. Now, this could also be something, it could be that they don't cross, and so maybe you have a C. Maybe C could be the disappearance of the gods. Maybe the gods are disappearing in your campaign setting, and so C is its own little plot line, and maybe nothing has really been laid out. None of your adventures have tied into any of this. You have rumors that a few rumors have cropped up, and maybe one of your players, maybe a new player at your group, and he decides that he's going to make a character with this background, and it really strikes you that this particular background maybe ties into C. So C is now, he's tied into with the plot. As things go on down the road, you can then tie him back to the plot. Now, one of the things I also like to do is, in my campaign settings, is to create sort of a master list, or at least a starter list of rumors. Now, this is something that's kind of front-loaded into the campaign, and this helps to establish what's going on. And what I do is I create a D100 chart of just rumors, and having my events set up ahead of time. Many of these rumors feed into those events, and they're letter coded, just like the events or the goings on are coded. Some of them are completely unconnected to anything. Some of them are completely pointless. Not all, you don't want to make all of your rumors meaningful, because you really want to throw in some red herrings. You want to have your players not really sure which they should chase or not. Because if they're sure that everything is meaningful, then they're definitely going to go ahead and chase them all. And that can cause some problems. You can end up derailing a lot. Excuse me. But what happens also is, as you go down the road and you're creating, and you're rolling on these rumor tables, like, let's say every time the party is at, let's say every time the party is at, a village, and you are going to, they want to roll rumors, then you can just pull off this chart. You can roll randomly, and it helps to like check them off as you go along, so you know which ones that they've heard, or you may not. Maybe they keep hearing the same rumor, and that'll lend some weight to it. But what happens is, with your events being letter coded and your rumors being letter coded, then your players can start to piece together clues and hints at what might be going on in some of these events. Now, as you're writing adventures for your campaign, or maybe you run very free flow, but as you have NPCs that they encounter, key things that are brought up, you can leave them be, or you can assign them a letter code to tie into one of these events. Also, it could be that something that happens in one of your games creates another event, and you just simply add it to the bottom of your list as a new letter code. And that letter code doesn't necessarily have to tie in, that new letter code doesn't have to tie in necessarily to any of your events that you already have determined. It doesn't have to tie into any of your existing rumors, but you can go ahead, of course, it's your campaign, it's your idea. But what I'd like to do sometimes is, after I create a new event and it has a new letter code, I like to go back through my list of rumors and see if there's any that might tie into that new event. This often can create, say, cross-pollination of events, which adds sort of a depth and a kind of a web of plot and intrigue into your game. And so it seems pretty straightforward and simple, and it's a very basic tool that you can use to help keep things kind of on schedule, or keep track of what's going on. NPCs can also be given part of your letter code. Key monsters can be given letter codes. Just simply having that coding system for your key plot points, your key campaign points, will allow you to very much organize the things that are happening. And this is really good, again, if you're using sort of an ad hoc campaign up front, and you can always backtrack through things that have happened and gone, okay, well, I have this event and I want to, this really does seem like it would work into that. So it's definitely not linear in one direction. You can certainly, jump back and say, oh, well, this wasn't given any kind of a letter code, but we have this new thing that's going on, and that makes sense. Or maybe changes or occurrences within the campaign now make one of your rumors actually fit in with one of your coded campaign events. It certainly can be as flexible or as rigid as you want, but it gives you a quick reference chart for how to organize things. Now, that said, you could end up never touching on any of these. It's not a loss, and you may end up having things that are so coded, but that all that means is that those are like central nexuses to your plot. If you have a rumor, for example, that is A, B, and C, then if the players find out what that rumor is, or they pursue that rumor, that could open up a lot of potential role play. It could open up many, many arms of your campaign that the players may not have foreseen. They may not have drawn those correlations together, and it's just something that's kind of useful as far as developing your game. Now, rumors, kind of a final note on rumors. Rumors, like I said, they can be important. They can be actually be something. They can be simple window dressing. They can be theme builders. They can be style elements. It could be that rumors are, some of your rumors may just really be things to help describe your campaign. They're not things that you want to just necessarily gush up front, A lot of front loading really takes some of the mystery out of your campaign settings. So if you have a big, giant journal of, and these are the weather conditions in my campaign world, and this is the thing, but maybe you want to have blade storms. Blade storms are, supernatural storms of metallic shards that fall from the sky, or maybe they're some byproduct of a weird volcano or something. Elemental forces, chaos storms. You could have a random encounter in an inn where somebody is speaking of how there have been blade storms in the eastern provinces. Now your players know that there are blade storms. They don't know what they are necessarily, and they don't necessarily know what that means exactly. But now they know there is such a thing in your campaign world as a blade storm. They can certainly use lore checks, that you feel are appropriate. If they feel like they need to know more right then and there, give them an opportunity to go looking for it. Maybe they go to a library, meet an NPC. Maybe that rumor, even though it's just a random rumor about a blade storm in the eastern provinces, maybe you can turn that to your advantage as a DM, and help to use that. Use that to help tie them into a plot. Maybe you've had a particular adventure in mind, or particular leg of your campaign that you have been having a lot of trouble getting your players to access. Maybe they just haven't been jumping for it or whatever, but you throw out some sort of a rumor that they feel requires them to go ahead and look into, and that's going to send them looking. Now, when they're looking for things, then they can often find things. So if your players and their characters are content just, riding the roads and or sitting in the inn, you can always throw things at them that are going to pull them into your games, but that can get old sometimes. So sometimes having them follow a rumor, even if it's not connected to the story, can be a way to introduce a new way to get the players, involved in the story. If they're going and researching blade storms, and they go to the library of the city, and they are there, and they are speaking with the librarian, and they strike up a chat. Maybe that librarian drops a very meaty hint at the adventure you've been trying to get them to go on. It could be that in looking into the library for these information on the blade storm, or seeking a lore master or something to that effect, that they stumble on another piece of information that is key. They're in the library, and on the wall is a giant tapestry, and this tapestry has images that are evocative of that story you've been trying to plunge them into, and maybe you can describe it in such a way that puts two and two together, and the players who may have just ignored the earlier indications of some sort of a plot element now see another instance of that, and it increases the import. But this spawns from the rumors that are laid out in your attempt to kind of organize and put tidbits into your campaign setting. So the coding is part of that. That helps organize your thoughts and helps organize your campaign into a useful but still loose framework. And the rumors being coded is a way to tie those in together. But keep in mind, those rumors can also be used as a tool to help your players come in. And they don't have to necessarily be connected specifically to an adventure. So a rumor does not necessarily have to be a direct tie into an adventure. Fish falling from the sky is curious. Blood rains are curious. A lake boiling is curious. These things are seemingly odd events, which could just be looked at as kind of a by your players, but it also may have them thinking. And if nothing more, it will let them know that there are things going on in your campaign world that are supernatural. It should go without saying that in a fantasy game, the supernatural effect is a given. But often in games, it can very much default, especially if you're using sort of an open world where you're not parking the players at the doorway to each dungeon right away and enforcing that. It could be that maybe these little hints remind your players that this is a supernatural world, this is a fantasy world with magic, and not bound by the normal laws of science. and nature, even though those are more than likely present as well. But you can use rumors to great advantage just in getting your players motivated, getting them moving around, getting them thinking, calling their attention to things. And again, sometimes just putting them in a place. In my Airlith campaign, there have been a few things that have come off my rumors chart that rumors don't necessarily have to be verbally expressed either. I mean, a rumor usually indicates or calls to mind some sort of word of mouth, some sort of name drop, some sort of piece of information garnered through conversation. But on my rumors chart, I also like to place chance encounters, things that are clues or tidbits. So rumors can also be randomly placed clues and little tidbits here and there. In my Airlith campaign, they as they were moving along from place to place, they came across the path cut across the countryside by the movement of a large group of men. So this has my players very much convinced that there are armies moving, which was then later on reinforced by an encounter in an inn where there were men in uniforms that none of them recognized, men wearing livery and stuff like that, that was foreign to them, armor and weapons that were also out of the area. So there's this idea, this feel that there's something moving on. We also know that in the campaign, they also know that metal shipments coming out of one of the key mining powers in the area, those shipments have not been received by their normal recipients. The normal flow of that metal has been changed. They also know that the metal is leaving. It's not like it's just stopped being produced. It's not like the town, the region is not producing metal anymore, but it's not going where it normally goes. So these things are all working together to get my players thinking that there is some sort of brewing conflict. And most of those things came out of my D100 rumor chart. Not all of them, and not all of the rumors were as I had written them. That's the other thing to remember. Just because you have it written there doesn't mean you can't tweak it or turn around. Something that is written as an encounter or a clue that they come across could easily also be expressed as a verbal rumor. Verbal rumors might not be necessarily something that is just said to a player. It could be something that is written on a wall, overheard in a bard's song, town crier, just something to that effect. That as long as you're able to get that information. So this is just going to be a real quick video because it was just a little key point. But again, think about letter coding your key events going on in your world, and tie those into anything really. Once you have your what's going on, I have a sheet actually with that's literally titled. It's a little Google Doc titled "What's Going On in Airlith," and it has all these key plots, or not even key, but these noteworthy plots. Because some of them are minor; they don't have to all be world-shattering events. And some of them are very specifically geared towards a small group of people. Some of them are larger. If organization A is looking for something, well, okay, so that is not going to be a giant, going to start wars. You're not going to end up with a war of the ring. You could, but it's not necessarily going to be that. It could just mean that there's an adventuring party or some secret society that's out there that the players, or the characters, I should say, are going to run into. But your letter-coded list of events or list of goings on then ties into letter coding anything in your game, anything that comes up. And the nice thing about this is, one last point about that, is you can do this on the fly very easily. If you are like me and you often have your players doing things that you didn't plan to have them do, and you're doing role play on the fly, and you're throwing out names, or you're throwing out places, events, side quests, little tasks here and there, and you're writing them down in your DM's journal, you can easily go back, review your notes, and say, okay, this is a item. This is a plot B item. This doesn't fit in with anything. This is a new plot, perhaps. Perhaps I'm now going to... This was really well received by the players. They really seem to bite at that, so this now becomes plot D. And plot D goes into your list of goings-on, maybe with a paragraph or so. And usually when I do it, it's just a little paragraph or so. But then you have that all written down, and you can refer back to it, and you can grow your ever-increasing web of events and terror and deceit and lies and heartbreak for the characters in your game, and not pull your hair out when it's 6 months down the road and you're like, oh, that guy, what was he? Oh yes, he's plot A. So anyways, this is Eli from Elfbait. Like, share, comment, subscribe, skyrate, whatever it takes to spread the word. Certainly hope the videos are helping folks. That is the intent. And if you have any questions or specific comments, feedback for me, please feel free to leave it below or private message me, whatever it takes. I do check the channel frequently. But that is all for today. Get out and game.